Yo, what to do YouTube? The one and only Ivo, and today is a very special day. Why is it a very special day? Because today I'm finally releasing the first video in a mini series that I've been wanting to put together for a little while now. Game's been out for about a month, so I figured it would be appropriate for me to spread some knowledge and give y'all a little bit of that Victor sauce, if you know what I mean. Also, to anyone that just wants to learn more about Victor, you've come to the right place, because today specifically we're going to be covering one of my favorite Victor options, which is while running 2. Quite possibly one of the best while running moves in Tekken 8 and debatably in Tekken history. So first we'll tackle some pros and cons briefly. Then we'll discuss 5 concepts that I think are important to understand if you want to get the most utility and advantage out of the move. You know, really squeeze the juice out. And ultimately the goal of this video is to show you guys the most effective ways to use while running 2, but also how to make your opponent do certain things, and also how to trap your opponent in more ways than just frames. So without further ado, get into the video. Oh, also, timestamps will be listed down below if you're someone like me who has the shortest attention span known to man, or you want to just bounce around the video. Feel free to use those timestamps. Okay, so Victor's while running 2, like I said earlier, is probably one of the best running moves in the game currently. I don't like to downplay my character at all, even though he does have noticeable weaknesses. But this move is absolutely insane. I want to talk about the properties first and foremost. Let's see. Actually, we can just do block all. Whatever. So yeah, so +5 while running move. This is the pressure option that you want to use. It allows you to do a lot more than just frame trap your opponent. You get information of like the tendencies that your opponent has, and you know, obviously you can take this chunky +5 and frame trap your opponent with a few different options, but most of the time at intermediate and high level play you can expect to see people showing this move some level of respect, and we got to know what to do if the opponent is respecting or not respecting. So getting into more of the pros, it obviously knocks down, you know, as most running moves do. It wall splats as most running moves do, giving you opportunity for a combo. It is an excellent spacing tool, one of the better ones, and I mean it like, if you do it at point blank range right here, you're gonna see that you're still kind of relatively close to the opponent. But if you're like right here and you let a running 2 rip, look at the distance between you and your opponent. There's like significant difference between that and something like this, which is, you know, almost right in front of him. So keep that in mind. But the best property, the best pro of this move by far, no questions asked, is a counter hit launcher. Now, that in a game like this, in a game like Tekken in general, is an absolute luxury. Okay, now if you compare other people's running moves like Brian's or Devil Jin's or Kazuya, like legacy players, like they don't have the counter hit launch property. They have the knockdown, they have the wall splat, they have the pressure, but they don't have the counter hit launch, and that's what I really think, you know, makes this move so much better than all the other running options that other characters have. Alright, talked about pros, now let's get into the cons. You can't have pros without cons, right? So the first major drawback, and the biggest major drawback, is the fact that the move itself can be considered relatively linear. Okay, now I don't know all the scenarios that you could test, but if we do running 2 into running 2, excuse me, running 2 into running 2, on block into sidestep right or sidewalk right, as you can see, it's very linear. Okay, let's try left right now. As you can see, it's very linear, and it is very easily stepped to both sides. Now, there are some ways to work around this that we'll discuss a little bit more in detail later in the video, but just to give you an idea, modifying your timing or having massive amounts of frame advantage are going to be 2 crucial elements to remember if you want to make sure that your opponent is not just willy-nilly stepping or walking your running twos at will, right? Let me give you a real example. And actually, I'm going to put on the command history so you guys can feel me. Okay, so back 4, for example, is plus 13. It has a little bit of pushback, okay? One of two things can happen when you do back 4 into running 2, okay? This can happen, or that can happen. Now, the difference between the first one and the one that you just saw right now is that on the first one, I was a little bit lazy on when I decided to press the 2. I pressed the 2 later in the animation, which made it much easier for the opponent to just sidewalk completely around me. Okay, what you need to do is make sure that you are you're pressing the 2, activating the move in the very beginning of the run startup, okay? As soon as you're able to press it, you just need to make sure you hit it. So it should look like this, again. Okay, and on the opposite side, just to be cohesive. Okay, make sure you practice making your running 2s as sharp as possible. And now that leads us into our first layer, which is, what do I do if my opponent is not respecting my while running 2 on block and pressing buttons? And the answer to that is very simple. Now, I have the bot here to do a few punishment techniques, and we're going to just run through those really quick. So, running 2 on block, plus 5. My opponent is doing jabs afterwards. Very easy to check that with one move, 1 plus 2. 1 plus 2 is a move that will give a counter hit trade on anything that is 10 frames, and anything slower than that will give you a normal counter hit combo. Counter hit trade, obviously, heavily in your favor as you're still able to pick up, put them on the wall, do your combo, so on and so forth. Next up, we have an actual defensive option. Okay, so we have this into running 2, and the opponent retaliates with Victor's Power Crush, back 1 plus 2. The 1 plus 2 is not going to be able to lock that down. What do we do to stop Power Crush? We use the same exact move that we just defended against. 1, 2. If you're fast enough, it should just beat it out. Not only do you have 1, 2, but you also have standing jab. Oh my god. The Power Crush is too fast. It's beating me out. You have standing jab, and you also have 1, 1. Now, something very important to remember is that standing jab, man, I'm so trash. Standing jab, 1, 1, and 1, 2 all give you that massive plus 8, which is going to really be crucial to locking your opponent down after the while running 2 pressure. Just to cover a few more bases, we do have another option that I wanted to talk about, and that's the low or the high crush option. In this case, for Victor, it would be down back 4. You can deal with that the same way that you dealt with the first option, which was 1 plus 2. The reason why I'm only really focusing on the jabs and this one option, the 1 plus 2, is because you don't need to overcomplicate it too much in certain scenarios. You can really keep it as simple as, oh, they're doing a Power Crush to try to take back their turn. I'm going to do 1, 2. Oh, they're doing, you know, anything that's not a Power Crush after this, low, mid, high, whatever. I'm just going to do 1 plus 2. That way, you're not focusing on other things that aren't important. You can really simplify the approach and make your life and in-game experience a lot easier. We're now at layer 2. What if I do if my opponent is doing the opposite? Respecting my running 2s, not pressing into my counter hit options or anything of that nature. And obviously we can do the simple things like running 2 into running 2, or running 2 into down back 4, or running 2 into a throw. The broken one, obviously, because gotta use the broken stuff. But the real sauce happens when you incorporate the Perfumer or the EI mix after the while running 2 if your opponent is in fact respecting. Now, the best ways to get into Perfumer are normally the ones that are unrespondable. Okay, so that's 2-1 forward, back 1 forward, and manual forward 3 with Perfumer. Down back 1-1 forward is a decent option, but because the animation is so long, it's likely that the opponent will retaliate in between. So I'd recommend sticking to the other 3 options. In Perfumer, there are a few options that I want to go over. This isn't a Victor stance breakdown, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But when you're in Perfumer, you have quite a few options. So you have fast 12 frame mid. That's also a luxury that not a lot of characters have. Granted, it is from stance, but you can do a single hit. You could do 2 hits. You could do the third hit. That's -1. It's a high. It gives you a counter hit launch. You can do the mix with all the mids, only -13. He has a pressure option. He has a low. He has a homing move. And last but not least, he has a heat engager. Mid-knee. It looks like it has a little bit of low crushing, so very, very solid. Okay. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about the EI stance, or the life stance, whatever we're calling it. The best way to get into it is not manual, contrary to the Perfumer stance. Not manual. There's only really one way to go into it if you are not doing it manually, though, and that's with the up forward 1-1 cancels. Let me actually set this to do this, I guess. Okay. Yeah, so up forward 1-1 cancel is going to be the best way for you to get into the stance, first and foremost. And your options when you're in the stance are pretty... they're okay. Though the best part about this stance is that all of the 1 variations out of the stance are pretty much confirmable. So you can do this into this, or you can do this into this. Look at the delay difference in that, right? And the same goes for everything. You can do this into this, or look at that. Well, that wasn't exactly, but you get the idea, right? Same thing for this one. And that can really add some sauce and flair to the pressure options that you can, go into, I guess you could say, or the mix-up options that you can go into off of the lie stance. Besides that, you have lows. You have lows with extension follow-ups. You have big knockdowns. You have power crushes, I guess, if you wanted to do that. It's -14. And then you also have a big chunky sword move. So use that. Use all of these tools to the best of your ability, but try to keep it relatively fresh and as safe as possible. Now, when you really get comfortable, you can get a little saucy with it and start doing crazy stuff like this into manual Perfumer, double eye cancel, this, like, I don't know. It's truly endless, limitless potential in the mix-up game for this character once you have just a little bit of pressure. So keep that in mind and do what you will with that. Alright, on to layer 3.3, whatever you want to call it. What should I do if my opponent is stepping my wall running 2? Okay, and earlier in the video I had shown how linear the move is, or how linear the move can be. It's all about approach. It's all about if you're making it telegraphed or not. It's all about if you are being mindful of what your opponent is doing to try to avoid the move. And it's honestly all about the range, right? Like the range more than anything is the most important thing to consider, because if I'm charging it up right here and my opponent sees me doing that, it's gonna be a little bit easier to get around that move. So my advice, I'm gonna keep this as short and simple as possible. Be mindful of the positioning, what your opponent is doing. Try your best not to telegraph it on approach, and try not to spam it too much, because it just becomes a little bit easier every time to avoid it, and you're giving your opponent an opportunity every time you do it, especially at like these mid ranges, to just walk around it very easily, right? So again, my advice is to throw it out a little bit closer. In this game, they have reduced the execution barrier for instant while running moves, so I can really just be throwing this out at range 0 consistently every time, and like, not drop it once. You know what I'm saying? So get comfortable with doing it up here. Get comfortable with strange timings too, and delays. So for example, I showed you earlier that if you do it instantly. then he can walk around it. But if you delay it, you see how like it looks like Victor on the left is kind of like chasing Victor on the right. Okay, keep those in mind. Put a few of those in the mix, and I think you'll see a little bit more success. All right, finally, your wall running twos are connecting on block, but you're starting to realize that your options afterwards are getting sidestepped. What do you do? What should you do? So this is what you want to do to stop them. We're gonna get into the riskier options first, and then we'll go and talk about the more safe and better ones, I suppose. So we got round running 2 into down back 4, round running 2 into down 4. As you can see, -3 on the down 4 and +4 on the down back 4. These options are good to stop people who like to sidestep into buttons because they have good counter hit properties. Suppose I can show you guys. Down 4 will give you this nice knockdown, and down back 4 is going to give you that counter hit launch. So don't be sidestepping and pressing into buttons. Okay, that's number 1. And the drawback, obviously, very simple. This is launch punishable. This is -14, so in some cases also launch punishable. In both cases, you're getting lit up with some big damage if your opponent is ready. A few other options that you can use that are a bit more on the safe side are up 2, down 1 +2, and back 4. Up 2 and down 1 +2 are -9, so you're going to give up your turn. But something cool about down 1 +2, on counter hit you get a follow-up, so that's pretty neat. Back 4 is alright because it has a little bit of pushback and it's -6, but there really isn't a lot of wiggle room between these moves if they are blocked, so just keep that in mind. But the overall best thing to deal with people who are moving to not only the right side but also the left side, 2-1, 2-2. Now because Victor doesn't have a generic mid poke that will consistently track sidestep or sidewalk right, this is the next best thing because it's super fast, and on top of that, it's relatively safe. 2-1 gives you that nice +5, which is the same frame advantage that you'll have after a running 2 on block. And 2-2, although only -2 and only 20 damage, you can actually confirm the last hit if you see the first and or second hit connect. It's going to take a little bit of practice if you're not used to it, but you can get it pretty consistently if you just spend a little bit of time. And then it gives you that +4, which takes you into the lie stance for some kind of mix-up. But the left side is an entirely different story because everything that didn't work on the right is working on the left 100% of the time. One of my personal favorites, actually, is forward 4-1. It feels as if there is a small confirm window. I wouldn't necessarily call it hit confirm, but more like situation confirm. I don't know, regardless. The point is that after a while running 2, you're going to definitely want to make sure that your opponent is moving to the left side and not the right. That way you have more options and access to the better tools, if that makes sense. And finally, we've made it to layer 5, which is when should I be going for while running 2, or where should I be placing it? There isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer for this, considering the amount of utility that the move has. You know, pressure, mix-up potential, frame trap, movement trap, chip damage, the ability to push your opponent to the wall. But it seems as if wall running 2 is best used in situations where the opponent has to get up or tech at the wall, or if in the neutral on a hard knockdown. Let's go over a few of these examples. Alright, here's a very basic example. I've just finished a wall combo on my opponent and they are now on the ground. They have the option to side roll, tech roll, get up kick, stay on the ground, whatever. They're deciding to stay on the ground. So I notice this, or I anticipate it, make a right guess, and I do down 1 +2. This will typically prompt your opponent to want to tech roll or side roll or do some type of actual get up option that isn't a get up kick. That would be a death sentence if they did. So if you anticipate that, or if you get information that they're staying on the ground the first time, then they will most likely tech roll in the next wall situation, which will give you the ability to just start pressuring them immediately with wall running 2. This is one of the best ways to use wall running 2 on an Oki situation after you've shown your opponent that they cannot stay on the ground. Additionally, we have other situations such as hard knockdown or flip over, I guess you could say. So I do a running 2 and he does a get up kick on a hard knockdown. Okay, wake up mid kick, running 2 to running 2, will counter hit him, giving me the opportunity to do a big combo. Okay, same thing goes for low, so you can see, let's be thorough. When we get to the recovery and spring kick, it starts to get a little bit tighter on the timing, because you can easily get stuffed, but if you're fast enough, you can actually counter hit him or trade just like that, and then to a combo. Spring attack is the same. You'll most of the time beat it out. Another important situation to know about is after the Perfumer 1+2, it works the same way as on a hard knockdown if they try to do like a get up option, any get up option. And the reason why is because if you notice, they're on their stomach. They are, I think it's face down, head towards position, which means that any get up option that they decide to throw out is going to come out a lot slower. So use that to your advantage. And if for whatever reason your opponent is so afraid of while running 2 pressure that they're staying on the ground and not tech rolling and doing like weird things like side rolling or whatever, you have every tool in the book to deal with them. Everything. Flip over, ground hitting lows, OTG, like true OTG options where you're hitting them on the floor, like list goes on. And that's it. If you managed to make it to the end of the video, thank you guys so much for watching. I heavily appreciate it. If you guys have any recommendations or want to see me cover something specific to Tekken 8 or Victor, or perhaps future characters as well, just make sure you leave a comment down below, and I'll definitely try my best to make sure that happens for all of you guys. Also, I didn't say it in the beginning of the video and I wanted to, so I'm going to say it now. Thank you so much to everyone who has shown any type of support towards me in my journey. I'm trying to create content, I'm trying to compete, and I'm trying to get put on a nice team to help build my platform a little bit. So any type of support I can get, whether it be engagements on Twitter, vouchers on Twitter, you know, subscribers on YouTube, anything is super appreciated. I'm very grateful, so thank you very much for all of that. Last but not least, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You leave a comment on the video if you like the video, and you like the video if you like the video. Come on, I need that in order for me to grow. Please, 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 please. It is very important. And that's all I got for you. Thanks so much for watching. This is Ibo out.